Good day, students. Today we're going to look at some more solutions to your practice exercises. This comes from your ma1025 book 2, chapter 4, and we're on page 28. And we're solving linear equations, and I have two examples on the screen. So let's get right to it. The first one has 5x minus 4 equals 3x plus 12. And I'm sure you notice that we have x's on both sides of the equal sign. And what happens when you have x's on both sides? You have to bring those together and combine those like terms. Okay? And you notice, I'm sure, that there's a negative 4 on this side with a number on the other side, positive 12, and we're going to combine those together as well. Now, how do we go about doing that? Well, you'll see different techniques from different teachers or from different videos. One of the techniques, you'll see some people say, well, if I want to get rid of the 3x on this side, I'm going to subtract 3x because it's positive, so I do the opposite. I'm going to subtract 3x. Okay? So they'll write it underneath like that, and they'll write negative 3x on the other side. Why? Because whatever you do to one side of an equation, you must do to the other to maintain that equality. Okay? So that's why we do it. Otherwise, you're changing the equation. So now you'll see it done like that, and then they'll write 5x minus 3x minus 4 equals, and they cancel these two out, just 12 left on this side. However, that's a method that when you're doing linear equations, I think it's a little bit quicker if you tackle it this way. Okay? If we're adding and subtracting, okay, adding and subtracting only, when we move something across the bridge, the equal sign, okay, it changes sign. So for example, if I want to move this 3x over here to this side, and arrows help, this is understood to be positive in front because there's no negative sign. So when I bring it to this side, I'm going to say 5x subtract 3x. I don't need to show subtracting 3x from both sides. Now you can if you want. If you like that method, go ahead. Now then I have to move the 4. I'm going to do it all in one step. So there's the negative 4. And as you practice with these linear equations, right, I'm going to move that over there. So what stays the same? Well, the positive 12 stays the same on the other side, right? And I'm moving over to negative 4, so I'm adding 4 to both sides is what I'm doing. So you get 5x subtract 3x, which is now we can combine together to give us, of course, these will combine together to give us 2x. Oops, let's write that correctly. There we go. And this side combines together to give us 16. Now what do we do? Well, when you have a coefficient, that's called a coefficient, a number in front of a variable, so I have a coefficient of 2. Remember what you're trying to do when you're solving the equation. You're trying to isolate. Okay? Isolate the variable. Isolate the variable means get the variable by itself. Solve for x only. X equals. So I have to get rid of that 2. And what's normally done, because I'm multiplying, I do the opposite. If I'm multiplying by 2, 2 times x, I do the opposite, which is divide by 2 to get rid of it. Remember? So it's opposite operation at all times. Okay? So this is x now equals 16 divided by 2, which is, of course, 8. So we have 8 for an answer here. Now, how can we be sure x equals 8 is our answer? Well, if you have time, I certainly encourage you to check your work. Now, how do you check your work? What you do is you take your original equation, and always go back to the original equation, okay, and you're going to substitute into that original equation. Our original equation is 5x subtract 4 equals 3x plus 12. So what I'm saying is, if I put 8 into this side, if I put 8 in here for x, and put it wherever I see an x, so I have to put it over here too, then I want to see if the 8 works. Now when we say works, we say, well, that means both sides come out to be equal. Alright, so watch what happens. I get 5 times 8, and I've always used brackets when substituting, or parentheses, equals 3 times 8 plus 12. Now I'll put a little question mark over here, because I'm testing to see if both sides are equal. So I like to start my check with a little question mark over the equal sign. Are these sides going to be equal? So 5 8s are 40, so multiplication first, BEDMAS rules. 40 minus 4, so I get 36 on the left hand side. 3 8s are 24 plus 12, I get 36 on the right hand side. Bingo. this works. Therefore, 8 x equals 8 is our final answer. So if you have time, check your work. Now, the next question, you notice now we have 1, 2, 3. Okay, 3 different terms. Okay, so what do we do now? What do we do now to solve this one? All right, so we need to bring the 8x over with its 2 partners over here. 2 more x's over here, right? So I got 7x subtract 3x. No change in those 2. Why? Because they are on the left-hand side. They stayed on the left-hand side. Positive. If I subtract 8x from both sides, then 8x moves over here as subtraction. Equals. On this side, what do I have left? Well, the 5 stays. That didn't change. 13 stays. No change. And do it all in one step. What are we going to do? We're going to move the negative 2 over to this side. And that means I add 2 to both sides. So I bring it over as plus 2. Okay? Now combine all your terms together. 7x subtract 3x subtract 8x. Remember, all you're doing is combining the coefficients. And if you have trouble again with the coefficients, combine them. The handy dandy calculator can confirm it, but let's do it in our brains first. 7x subtract 3x is 4x. 4x subtract 8x is negative 4x. So it looks like I get negative 4x on this side. Now I'm going to double check that by just combining. So I got 7 on my calculator, subtract 3, subtract 8. Let's see what we got here. Look at that, negative 4. On the other side, of course, I combine all 3 together quickly. 5 plus 13 is 18 plus 2 looks like to be 20. Now what do we do at this stage? Okay, we must get rid of the coefficient in front of the x by dividing each side, each term by it. Okay, so these cancel and you're left with 20 divided by negative 4, which is negative 5. And the question comes again. Do we know our answer is correct? There's your answer right there. And again, I'll run the check. How do you run the check? Right, you substitute into the original equation. Okay, go back to the original and put put negative 5 in wherever you see x. So how many substitutions do we do now this time? We do how many? 1. Got to go in for this one. 2 and 3. So again, 7 times negative 5 minus 2 minus 3 times negative 5. Does that equal 5 plus 8 times negative 5 plus 13? And again, if you're unsure of, type it just like you see it in the calculator. 7, open bracket, negative 5. Always good to use brackets when substituting. Subtract 2. Subtract 3, open bracket, negative 5. Now remember, in the calculator, negative is different than subtraction. If you just want a negative, use this button down below. Okay, let's see what we get on the left hand side. We get negative 22. Okay, so we got negative 22 on the left hand side. What are we getting on the right hand side? 5 plus 8, open bracket, negative 5, close bracket, plus 13, and enter. Look at that. So very quickly we know that negative 5 is the correct answer. So there's your complete solution for 2 different linear equations on page 28. That's it for now. Have a great day.